Acting Chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, S. Amrasekara, says that public institutions incur losses owing to the activities of their employees.
That's right. Now, the CPC branch of the SLFP-affiliated Nidahas Sevaka Sangamaya, however, says that employees should not be held responsible for the losses of Sipetco.
An event to felicitate long-serving employees of Sipetco was held today at the Sapukaskanda oil refinery under the auspices of the acting chairman of Sipetco, S. Amarasekara.
සමහර දේශපාලන අරමුණු නිසා වෙන්න පුළුවන් කෑ ගහනවා මේ ආයතන පෞද්ගලිකකරණය කරන්න යනවා කියලා. කාටවත්ම කිසිම ආයතනයක් පෞද්ගලිකකරණය කරන්න උවමනා වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒකෙන් ලාභ තියෙනවා.
At times, the employees of our institutions may be motivated by political aims and shout that the institution is going to be privatized. No one needs to privatize any institution if it is profitable. At times, governments must privatize when these institutions become unmanageable. It is our employees that bring about this situation. Therefore, rather than getting onto the streets and shouting against privatization, we must show that we can maintain this as a public enterprise.
Meanwhile, the CPC branch of the Sri Lanka Nidahas Sevaka Sangamaya, convening a media briefing today, claimed that there is a conspiracy afoot to immobilize Sipetco.
I clearly state at this instance that there is a conspiracy, a secret plan in this enterprise. I see this as an affair involving some officials and high-level individuals. It is our responsibility to safeguard this institution. This institution will face a myriad of major challenges in the future. We are all aware that there was a situation in the past where our workers could not take to the streets. Our institution is not incurring losses because of our comrade workers. It is because of the disparity in the other expenditures of the institution and the buying and selling of fuel.
And now a look at words of wisdom.
If you are trying to achieve, there will be roadblocks. I've had them. Everybody has had them. But obstacles don't have to stop you. If you're running to a wall, don't turn around and give up. Figure out how to climb it, go through it, or work around it. Michael Jordan, former professional basketball player.
The US State Department says Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asian Affairs, Nisha Desai Biswal, will visit Sri Lanka from the 31st of January to the 2nd of February.
The department stated that Assistant Secretary Biswal will meet with Sri Lankan officials to discuss a range of bilateral issues, including post-conflict reconciliation, justice and accountability issues.
During her visit, Assistant Secretary Biswal will also travel to Jaffna, where she will meet with Northern Provincial Council officials and civil society leaders.
Biswal is also scheduled to travel to Geneva for meetings regarding US's intention to sponsor a resolution on Sri Lanka in the March session of the UN Human Rights Council. The US State Department said this resolution will build upon previous resolutions in 2012 and 13 and will urge Sri Lanka to do more to promote reconciliation, justice and accountability in the wake of the civil conflict.
The CIMA Game Changers Convention 2014, organized by the CIMA Student Society, was held this evening.
That's right, the convention was held under the theme Game Changer.
Speakers were from varied unconventional business backgrounds.
If you want to game change, you need to look at the statistics, you look at the numbers and carry out very bold analytics. You need to be able to look at numbers, facts, figures, emotions from an entirely objective, a different perspective. So bold analytics is very important. Think big. Very important to start thinking very big, because it really opens out. None of us can exceed our own thinking. We are all limited, not by our physical abilities, not by our conceptual abilities, but by our own thinking. We can never ever exceed our own thinking.
The thing with inorganic growth is mergers and acquisitions are perceived as high risk. Why? because you put a lot of money up front. You press the button and you invest billions of rupees. So there's a lot of pressure to get it right, as opposed to inorganic growth where you might invest a few million rupees here, a few million rupees there, you keep building it along the way so you can mitigate your risks.
So wherever you are today, whatever your situation is, you might be at a job you hate or a job you love. You might have extremely lofty goals, but wherever you are today, I want you to know that unless you take the time to dream and imagine for yourself the greatness that lies within you, it may not happen and you may not reach your potential. From the point of identifying the problem to its outcome is called experience. And we don't see it like that often, do we? We always look at problems in terms of outcomes. Don't do it. That's what adversity does. And that's what spells the difference between the good leaders and the great ones.
The Bodhi Puja was held last evening for late educationalist R.I.T. Alas.
The Bodhi Puja was conducted by Venerable Uduwe Dhammalokatera at the Alan Mathiniya Ramaya. A group including members of the Alas family and ministers were present at the occasion.
ඒ වෙලාවේදී සෑයක් දුටු පමණින් ජීවමාන බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේ දුටුවා හා සමාන බව ඒ චෛත්‍යයන්වල
Taking a quick look at news from the sporting arena.
That's right. Personal milestones dominated day 3 of the first test encounter between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh as Sri Lankan batsmen ruthlessly put on a first innings score of 730 runs before declaring.
The game, which is being worked off at the Shera Bangla Stadium in Mirpur, saw the hosts being restricted to 232 runs on day 1. Sri Lanka continued their dominance with the Willow on day 3 after resuming their first innings from an overnight score of 375 runs for the loss of 5 wickets. Skipper Angelo Matthews scored his 14th Test half-century today. However, he was unable to convert his start into 3 figures as he was undone for 86 runs by Shohag Ghazi.
Unfortunately for the Bangladeshi bowling attack, this was the only reprieve for day 3 as Mahela Jayawardene and Kitruan Vitanage pummeled them to all corners of the park. Vitanage went on to hammer his maiden test century inclusive of 2 sixers and 12 boundaries. Mahela Jayawardene meanwhile notched up his 7th test double century. Sri Lanka eventually declared on 730 runs for the loss of 6 wickets with a lead of 498 runs.
Bangladesh, who commenced their second innings, was struck an early blow as they lost opener Tamim Iqbal cheaply. At stumps on day 3, Bangladesh were 35 for the loss of 1. And with that, we are going to wrap up the news for tonight. I'm Ravi Gamage.
I'm Sonali Manikavadage. Good night.
News First at 9.
Hotline 0114-896-896. www.newsfirst.lk. Feedback at newsfirst.lk.